Hello and welcome to Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene podcast. This podcast is all about how to attain healthier skin. You may be struggling with a skin condition such as psoriasis or eczema or acne, or perhaps a condition that causes the skin to become unhealthy, such as PCOS or irritable bowel or Crohn's disease. Regardless of what your condition is, healthy skin is attained by having a healthy body. So my mission is about bringing a huge array of experts to your attention in various areas of health. I hope you find this information knowledgeable and insightful and helpful for your specific journey in having better health. Remember to always connect with us through Facebook at Dr. Irene Prantelos, Psoriasis and Healthy Skin. You can email me at info@salubre.com.au. I hope you enjoy the show, and please feel free to give us any sort of insight into what you feel you need to hear in future episodes. Hello and welcome to Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene. Today I'm joined again by the lovely Cheryne Blom from Mindful Mummies, and this kind of came really quite quick and all of a sudden because I was prepping for some things that I was coming up to and doing. And I was thinking to myself, you know, Christmas can be quite tough for some people, and, you know, New Year's resolutions and all this sort of stuff. I thought to myself, you know, people get quite caught up with it and then possibly disappointed when things don't come to fruition. And I thought, who else to explain all this, give us some tips and help us stay calm over this festive season, but Cheryne Blom. So welcome, Cheryne.
Hello, nice to be here again.
Thank you for doing this all of a sudden. It was, you know, a few weeks ago, it was me in front of the Mac and you know, doing a few things, and I'm like, who can I speak to that is so wise and clear in their delivery of information as well, you know, because you make things so practical and so easy, and I just get, as I was saying to you before we started recording, I'm just in awe of when you speak. So I'll stop gibbering here, and I kind of, you know, really wanted to do this because I do know that although Christmas is a very festive time, and not necessarily everyone celebrates Christmas, but it still brings a lot of emotion with it. And I thought of those people that are struggling because, you know, as a practitioner, I see women that want to be mothers that can't be, and this time seems to make it a little bit more raw. People that have lost loved ones, people that are in relationships that aren't healthy. There's all these little triggers that somehow, for some reason, whether it is the Christmas and the emotion around it, or the fact that we're ending the year and a new year's starting, that people reflect and perhaps get a bit down. So I thought it'd be great to get your insight and wisdom in it, because the way you sort of break things down makes things look a lot less daunting.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend, or what would you say to people who are struggling during this time of year?
Well, I think that, you know, this year it's such an intense time of year, regardless of what's happening, regardless of what religion you are, if you celebrate, if you don't celebrate. There's a lot of intensity, and it is like the end of a race. I'm not quite sure why we feel that we have to get everything done by the end of the year and set up for a new year. You know, it's all these kind of expectations and conditioning that we've had, you know, and mainly the expectation that we hold around ourselves and people this time of year. And, you know, what I feel it always comes down to is that, you know, I think what happens when we get stressed is the mind tries to control a situation. And when we feel we don't have control over a situation, that's when we try, you know, we go into like controlling, making sense of it even more. And we create a story in our mind. And that actually becomes the problem. So the family members, the actual event that's happening, the actual stressful situation that's happening, that's not nearly necessarily the problem. The problem is the story that we are making about it, and the meaning we are making that's making us control an outcome or, control the situation in general. So if, for example, like, let's say, for example, we are extremely stressed about Christmas lunch, for example.
Yeah. I was going to say that's a common one,
Yeah. Oh, I got to see the family.
Yes.
And there's that.
And when this person drinks, they become really hostile and angry towards other people. And I'm going to deal with that? Or,
Well, that's it. That's a perfect example of what you were just saying there. Because can you notice in your mind, you are creating a story and a label and placing judgment on the situation in a sense where this person is going to become hostile. So basically, that's triggering your kind of stress response.
Yeah.
And you're going to try to manage the situation or control the situation.
Yes.
So now, because we can't control other people and we can't control the situations, the only thing that is in our sphere of control or circle of influence is the way that we are going to respond.
Okay.
And so two things, the way that we're going to respond and what is the story in our head, right? Because the minute you say to yourself, oh, that person's going to be hostile, they're going to be embarrassing, or they're going to say things and I'm going to have to notice as you are saying that, notice how it's starting to make you feel.
Yeah.
Right? Because
you get anxious.
Yeah. And I think, we spoke about this in our last time together. It's like the mind is like Google. Whatever you're programming into your Google mind, the body's just going to respond.
Yes.
So if you're saying the word hostile, right? If that's going into your Google mind search bar, the body, the nervous system recognizes that word and it responds. So hostile means danger, right?
Yes. Yep.
So it's going to put you into that survival, fight or flight response. And then it's going to be the adrenaline and cortisol that speaks for you rather than your calm self, right? My saying with Mindful Mummies is your calm self is your best self.
Yep. That's so true.
In all the situations, because when we have calmness, we activate the frontal cortex, right? We're not coming from our fight response. We're not reactive to the world. We're calm, we have a lot more clarity, and we can become a lot more responsive. So this means about creating a focus point for us of how are we going to respond.
Okay.
Not control, not manage, because you can't, Uncle Mike and his drinking or whoever it is, right? We can't control him, right?
No.
We can put out less liquor, right? We can try influence the situation.
Lock up the liquor cabinet. That's what you do.
But we can't control him or the situation.
That's right.
And that's a real amazing sense of empowerment when we say to ourselves, okay, how am I going to respond to this situation?
Right.
Instead of thinking of it's hostile, if I say, okay, I know I can manage it.
So how does someone respond? Is it that you just
let's say, for example, and this is, one of the things that, and we can go into detail a little bit later in this conversation, but one of the things that I, always work on with my clients is about creating values. Mm-hmm. And the values represent our inner core virtues, which are our greatest qualities. It's the points that create our full potential. Okay. So, and these values become almost like our focus words or GPS points. So for example, let's say we have the word detachment or acceptance. So I'm going to accept that this is what he does. That maybe I'm going to use, for example, another word, compassion, right? So if I let compassion navigate me through Christmas, I'm not going to take anything personally. I'm not going to get upset about anything because I'm going to be compassionate. So for example, I may say to myself through the eyes and the lens of compassion will say, maybe Christmas is a really stressful time for Uncle Mike, right? Let me think what he's going through. That's where we use empathy. Let me step into his shoes. For example, he may have lost a loved one at Christmas time. So Christmas is a real, trigger for his grief and loss, or for example, right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, I'm going to be compassionate to his situation. from a space of compassion, what does compassion say? How does compassion navigate that? Does compassion judge him, or does compassion accept him? How does compassion create a conversation with him? So for example, maybe a couple days before, is there something that you need? How can we support you during this time? Making him feel safe and comforted so he doesn't have to turn to the alcohol, for example.
Yeah.
So can you see there that my intention and my mindset is completely different?
Yeah.
And what that compassion gives me is it gives me a sense of calm, because it also allows me to say, let me accept that this is what he's going to do, and I'm going to have to create some boundaries. So for example, I may not be able to stay there that long, right? Or my boundary may be that I need to go into another room.
Okay.
Or I may actually have to leave early, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? So compassion doesn't necessarily always need to be that, oh, well, we're going to just, help this person, because sometimes if they're not open to that, and it's not, if they're not open to receiving our help, then we have to choose, okay, well, I have to be compassionate to myself.
Yeah.
And so I have to put a boundary example.
So on a different,
does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think as soon as you say the word compassion, a sense of ease comes over me as well.
Exactly.
And I do tend to look at other people's stories and the meaning behind their behavior. And like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean tolerance. It doesn't mean you have to put up with anything that you believe isn't similar to your core values. So if you think someone is acting out of character or in a way that doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't mean you have to put up with it. You can leave earlier, or you can, remove yourself from the situation. So I respect the fact that compassion doesn't mean necessarily tolerance. It just means having peace and calm in your approach before. Because I think you said it in, you hit the nail on the head. You have that story in your head before the day even arrives.
Yeah.
So you're in that fight-flight mode, way before Christmas Day, the one day in 365 days in the year that people do get all this angst around.
Absolutely. And instead of being in the, just comment on what you've said there. Instead of being in the moment of it and in the joy of it, we're in the anticipation of it.
Yeah.
And that anticipation creates anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're future thinking. We're anticipating the future. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if he says this? What if he's going to say that? What if he insults, So and that what if creates the whole story, and that creates excessive worry, because we're now future thinking.
Yeah. And on the flip side, so that's kind of like, I guess, I don't know, an uncomfortable situation to be in. What about, this obviously happened to me for a period of time, because it took us a while to have our little baby. And I see this a lot in my clinic with women wanting to start a family. And this time of year, especially the women doing IVF, they tend to do a lot more towards the end of the year, because that Christmas present of getting a positive test result is their kind of expectation, as you said, having these expectations, wanting to end the year on a good note, and doesn't necessarily happen. How does someone, I guess, address the disappointment of the year, or the lack of expectation, not the lack of expectation, but expectation not coming to fruition? How does someone kind of deal with that? And is it a loss? Is it something that needs to be mourned, or?
Well, 100%. And I think any time that any expectation is not met, it's going to create disappointment.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to create disappointment. And if we have that negative feedback loop happening, then the loss validates that negative feedback. So, for example, it's, like in an extreme situation, like if I was a good enough person, or if I did more, or, with regards to grief, I mean, it's a very, very difficult thing, especially when you're wanting it so badly, and you're not understanding. Again, it becomes that control thing, right? We're just controlling the outcome and also attached to the outcome. And this is where, what I was saying before about that detachment. For me, the most important mindset that I use throughout my life that helps me navigate through situations is detachment, compassion, acceptance.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is when we are detached from, because sometimes we hold on so tight that we're like pushing it away almost. And that holding on also creates so much stress.
Yes.
And what we don't realize is we have this subconscious story going on. Like, for example, there may be a real fear of becoming a parent, a fear of how am I going to balance everything? How's life going to happen? Am I going to be a good parent? That we're not aware of. Yeah, that's happening. And so those negative thoughts are blocking, the actual manifestation of that.
Yeah.
So again, about staying detached and turning that story around into a real positive story. This time last year, it was 2 years ago, I was working with a woman who was having fertility, trying to fall pregnant. And we created these daily visualizations for her, right? Daily visualizations where she'd picture herself with her baby. And it was all about, I am grateful and I am ready. I am grateful and I am ready for you. And she did that for about 3 months. And, she now has this beautiful 10-month-old baby who's just absolutely gorgeous. But, she manifested and she opened it. And, I truly believe in our ability to prime ourselves. Sometimes we don't recognize how we are blocking ourselves by that story and creating that stress. So, the story in our mind creates the mindset. And again, if we have that focus word of, again, detachment or acceptance. So I accept this right now, and I'm open to receiving it when it's ready.
Yeah.
That it's going to happen in universal timing, not my timing.
Exactly. That's 100% right.
And I know even with your own journey.
Yeah.
And look at you.
Even my dad sometimes says, he goes, he came at the time he was meant to, because if he came earlier when I had my cancer diagnosis and you're taking me to doctor's appointments, how would you have done it? How would everything have worked? Whereas now I'm well and I help take care of him, and you can go off to work and do what you need to do. And it's so true. It's that universal timing that we need to accept. And that gives you that peace, because I think instinctively we all are very controlling.
Yes.
We control who we date, who we end up with, what jobs we do, what we decide to study, if we are going to study, where we travel. Everything in our life is controlled, where we live, to a certain extent. And I think when it comes to health, or when it comes to things like fertility, there is no control. You have to, and that's a conversation I have in clinic all the time, is people struggle with a lack of controlling that situation.
Yes.
And the more they struggle, the longer it seems to take, because like you said, they're causing those physiological blocks.
And again, more of the stress hormones that are not going to prime the body.
With the expectation.
I think one of the, if I just go a little bit deeper into that, one of the beliefs that gives me the ability to be detached in situations is this underpinning belief that I trust that everything is happening for my greater good. Even if it's not working out in the way that I need it right now, I trust this is for my greater good and my greater growth. So for example, I know it took me a while. Even with my second child, it took 5 years to have my second child. But when I look back, there was so much healing that I had to take myself through. And I recognized afterwards that time was gifted to me as a time for healing and a time for preparation. So, we can see that in hindsight. We have that 20/20 vision. But when we have that lens of trust, It lets us embrace the uncertainty. It lets us have that greater sense of detachment and compassion and acceptance, because we can actually sit back and say, okay, you know what? Oh, sorry, that was naughty. Got to put that on silent. It lets us sit back and say, I trust this is for my greater good. So if this is not happening right now, then what is this time for? You know, like I always say, like when we go through difficult times, you know, the self-pity or our victim mentality kind of steps forward and we say, why is this happening to me? And I always say to my clients, that's a really brilliant question, but let's change the tonality, right? So say the exact same thing in a different tonality, right? So for example, why is this happening to me? Changes the meaning, right?
Yeah, totally.
Then it opens us up to say, well, if this isn't happening right now, then what is this time for? What do I need to do right now? And again, it's that it gives us that empowerment, you know, mindset, because it puts us into a sense of control. What you control right now is what you do with that time that you have. And you can be in that space of resistance, or you can be in that space of acceptance.
So you can actually use those as affirmations, can't you? Like every day, you know, you can say to yourself, what was the truth? I have to write these down, mind you.
So I trust that everything is happening for my greater good.
That's right. I trust that everything's happening for my greater good. And you can say that. And I know that Louise Hay says saying affirmations 200 times a day.
Exactly. Sometimes she says sometimes you have to say them 1,000 times. But I like to take that a little bit, one step further, because what we're talking about is programming our nervous system and programming the mind and body. And the mind and body work through our senses. So it's not only affirmations, but, you know, this is what I call the mind focus meditation. We have to program the sense of sight, the sense of sound, and the sense of feeling. The sense of taste and smell can come into it as well. But those are the three: the sight, the hearing, sight, sound, feeling is what we want to prime the mind with. So what that means is that I trust everything works out for my greater good. I'm saying that to myself. I'm also creating a picture in my mind of the end result. I'm trusting that, for example, I'm seeing myself with my baby, right? I'm not going to actually say that now because I've had 3 and I'm done.
You're done.
What you wish for.
It's funny.
For example, for these beautiful mamas that are in the prep stage, in the manifestation stage, of you know, being able to see the baby dancing, holding, you know, actually seeing it in your mind, and then taking it the next step further of feeling those feelings in your body. So what we have to look at is that all our feelings create a frequency. It creates a vibration. And that's almost like, if we take it to like law of attraction, for example, you know, what we put out is what we get back. So it starts with what we're like seeing or saying to ourselves. I mean, that's kind of chicken and egg, but sometimes it helps to kind of say the affirmation first, see the picture in your mind, and then feel the feelings of trust, feel that calmness through your body, because your nervous system will respond to those feelings. So it's actually about taking yourself through those 3 stages of creating a picture, an affirmation, and a feeling.
That's beautiful. That's perfect.
And then your mind's focused, right? Your mind can't filter in the negative because you've actually like programmed it. You've actually set like a coding of what your mind is going to focus on and what you're going to manifest within the body.
And even doing that gets you in a meditative state, doesn't it? Just
100%. And that's actually where we want to stay, really, you know, because mindfulness is about a way of being. It's not necessarily something that we do. I like to look at mindfulness as it's a mindset. Yeah. And it's an emotional state that we're in. We are, and what's so beautiful is that when you create that picture, and when you're saying the affirmations, and when you are feeling it in your body, that's when your cells, you know, open. They're like the little lotus flowers that just kind of open. And then you also you release the positive hormones, and especially for fertility, that's the state where your body is going to open and actually conceive.
Yeah.
Because when the body's in that stress state, it's like the body thinks that you're in like a state of famine, for example, and why would we bring a baby into danger, right? So it's actually doing what it's meant to do and protect you. So it's shutting down all your ability to reproduce in that moment, because to the body, it's not safe.
Yeah.
But if you're creating an environment of calm and safety, well, you're going to open your cells and your body's going to respond to you.
Yeah. That's so true. And I think when people, I often hear patients go, I don't know why I didn't get pregnant this month. I did everything right. I relaxed. But that underlying, that angst associated with it it's kind of there. Okay, so let's move on to the next phase, which is New Year's resolutions. Now, what are your thoughts on people making New Year's resolutions?
Well, I mean, I love New Year's resolutions. I'm very kind of symbolic, and for me, New Year's is a time of deep meditation and setting my intention for the year. So before I write my goals for the year, because although I like to live in the now, I also like to have some kind of direction.
Yeah.
For example, my goal is to finish my book. Now, that's actually been my goal for the last 3 years, but my mind said I could do it in 6 months. The reality is that it's going to take me 3 years, right? So I'm detached from the outcome, but it's still my goal, right?
Yeah.
So, but what I like to do, it's about setting the intention. Set your intention for the year. And what that is that how we set our intention is we have a focus word. Now, this is from what we were talking about before. It's the same kind of principles. And I actually have a little file. Maybe I'll share my screen so that everybody can kind of see this. I'll just share screen. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm new to Zoom. Okay. And so you can see here that we've got love, clarity, growth, freedom, privacy, trust. If I go all the way down, fun, courage, caring, forgiveness, creativity, energy, compassion, gratitude. All of these are the most popular core values that I've heard and that I've heard from clients. And they represent our virtues within ourselves, the inner resources. And what I like to do is I like to have a word for the year. And this is going to be my focus point. So, for example, my word for this last year was wisdom.
Okay.
And what that meant was that everything that I was going to do had the intention of wisdom in it. So instead of attaching to drama and getting all panicky about stuff, I was going to let wisdom navigate me. And the intention of wisdom. I was going to find the wisdom in each situation. And that kind of made sense to me at the time.
Yeah.
So like, let's maybe have an easier one. Like, let's say, for example, belief. Okay. So my intention this year is about belief. I am going to believe in myself. I'm going to believe in the process, and I'm going to believe that I can trust in the process. So what that means is that I'm now going to set my goals from that intention. So what if I had belief, right? And how do I let belief navigate me?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So now it's like, well, it works on a really good model to understand this is be, do, have. So who do I need to be, which is the focus word, and what do I have to do to have what I want to have? So for example, if the goal is like, for example, publish my book, right? Okay, who do I need to be and what do I need to do? So my doing is my daily actions, right? So I need to, 30 minutes of writing every day, set up the publishing, all that kind of stuff, right? That my daily actions that I'm working on, realistic actions. But my being, the mindset, the attitude that I'm putting into is I am believing. I'm believing in myself, which gets, for me, that means, I'm confident in my abilities. I'm trusting it. I'm not letting my fear or inner critic get in the way. I'm not letting that inner story in. I am staying in the space of belief.
Yeah.
And we can replace that with compassion. We can replace that with gratitude. We can replace that with courage, right? So, for a person going through a difficult space, what if courage was your focus word for the year?
Or even trust, as you said, but trusting what is coming, what will come to you will come at the time that needs to come. Trust might be something that a lot of people,
Yeah. And I mean, look, there's going to be a few of them, right?
Yeah.
But it's generally like one word. Now, we've all got quite a few values that we focus on, but it's one word. And remember, this is your word for the year. And you can also change it throughout the year if you feel it's like set in stone, But like, for example, it's the intention that you're putting in. So like, for example, a few years ago, I had gone through such a difficult time personally that I set the intention that this year is going to be peace. This is going to be a peaceful year. And so all of my actions, which included a year of really focusing on healing and pulling back from a lot of things, because everything was now what's going to generate peace. Right? So my choices in my day-to-day actions came about generating peace.
Yeah.
Yeah? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So I think it's a good idea if people change during the year, wouldn't it? Because it's they feel like that they're evolving and something else has kind of come up. And I know that, it's always about peeling away at the layers that we have, isn't it? So where you've kind of met one, value and you feel like that's kind of done its purpose, then you evolve to something else down the track.
Absolutely. And also who you are in January and who you are in July are often two different people. Life evolves, and it's not necessarily, it's the only thing that's really going to change are your doing. Right? So you may find that you have a lot more energy, or time has opened up for you in July, or what you're manifesting has actually happened. So it's not, you're just going to then readjust your day-to-day actions to still being peace, or to still being honesty, or to still being belief, or to still being trust in whatever comes your way. So it's just a different kind of playing with New Year's. Instead of kind of setting those New Year's resolution, it's about setting your intention rather. You're finding your focus word.
Yeah, because I think typically what people will do, I'll quit smoking, or I'll eat better, I'll stop junk food, I'll go to the gym, and it's all activity based. And then when that activity is either broken, then people automatically think, oh, I've just stuffed up my New Year's resolution, and now that's it. I'm just going to throw my hands in the air and just throw it to the wind and let 2018 write itself out. But by having this focus word, it's not activity based. It's really
it's being based.
Right?
Because we're not human doings, we're human beings.
That's right.
And everything is going to be determined by your mindset. So if I go back to what I said at the beginning of our conversation, it's that story in your head. How are you programming your Google mind? Right? How are you focused? How are you programming your energy? And if I kind of add, just bring all the pieces together, one of my favorite things to do now, of the ritual that I will do over New Year's, is I will pick my focus word. I don't actually have my focus word yet, because I let it kind of intuitively come to me at the time, looking through my list going, what is going to be my focus word? I'm trusting.
Ringing a bell right now, but
I'm like, we may just roll on to wisdom in another year, actually.
Well, maybe there needs to be more time on wisdom, but I think so once you've got your focus word, because you said you do your goal setting as well.
So what I was like, if I bring in what I was saying before, so like, let's say, for example, we're working on wisdom again, right? So now I'm going to take myself through a kind of meditation of what we were talking about before. I'm going to use the affirmation, I am wisdom, I am wise, I am letting wisdom navigating me. So those are the words in my head. I'm now visualizing myself in wisdom. I am visualizing what wisdom is going to bring to my year. Okay, let's use the word trust.
Yeah.
I trust myself. I trust in the process. I trust that everything's happening for my greater good. I'm now visualizing myself, trusting myself. I'm visualizing situations unfolding because I'm trusting myself, and I'm feeling those feelings in my body, right? I'm feeling, what does it feel like to trust myself in the moment? What does it feel like to trust in the process? What does it feel like to embrace uncertainty with trust? And I'm feeling those feelings, and I'm taking myself through that process, saying it in my head, seeing the picture, feeling it in my body. And then I'm going to goal set from those feelings, right? Because now I've primed myself into trust. There's nothing blocking my way. So now, what are the actual objectives, right? What are the objectives that I want to accomplish? Rather than goal setting, what are the objectives that I want to accomplish? Finishing my book, for example.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a goal or objective. But I'm going to do it through the B's you have. I'm going to do it through being trusting in my daily actions, trusting in my intuition, trusting in my thoughts, and feeling that. And so that feeling, the way that I'm being, the mindset of what I'm being, and the emotional intention I'm putting into it will navigate me through the year. Not what I'm doing, right? It's not about the end. It's not about having a book finished, right? It's about what's that going to bring me? How am I going to feel through that?
Yeah. And then I think, really living, isn't it? You're allowing yourself to live in those circumstances.
Yes.
Because it's almost like, and, I think people can sometimes, say someone says, oh, I'm going to get fit this year. I'm going to start going to the gym. And then say, excuse me, a family member or friend might say, oh, how's that going? And that person might be going, oh, actually haven't started yet. And sometimes, other people's reactions can sometimes create that angst. So
Absolutely.
Whereas when you've got a focus word and you've got the intention and in your mind you're going, this is the transformation that's going to happen over the year and years, because that's who I am as a person. I learn, I experience, I teach, and I evolve, and that just transpires as days happen. I'm not saying I need to lose 5 kilos by March 1st.
Right. And what you're focusing on is your mindset, right? Or because everything is about our attitude or the emotional reaction that we're going to have, right?
Yeah.
So we're putting our attitude, we're putting our emotion, we're putting our energy into it.
Yes.
Right? And that vibe is going to create what we want.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good.
I'll come
okay.
I'll stop sharing so I'm there.
Okay. So that kind
I
of
can put a link there if anybody needs that. I'll send you a PDF if you want to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, that'll be good. I think something for people could, because like when you put it up first, I was thinking, oh gosh, I don't have anything either. So anyway, I just noticed the time, and you covered quite a few things. So where can people find out more information about you and Mindful Mummies and what you do?
So if you want to head along to mindfulmummies.com.au, and there is a great link that says download your 5 steps to instant calm right now. And that's a really great guide that gives you 5 steps to getting calm. You also get some brief videos that also help you through those 5 steps. And that really helps you take those 5 steps and apply that into your life. We also have an online course on that site that's actually only $7. It's $1 a day because it's a 7-day course.
Fantastic.
And that's a meditation course that gives you a daily video lesson, a PDF like workbook to do some journaling exercise, and a guided meditation just to learn the skills of meditation to help prime the brain and train the brain to kind of go straight to calm instead of crazy, you know?
That's
So
fantastic.
that's probably the best thing.
Mm.
Also, really great tool for this year is, head over to Peace in My Pocket Meditation Podcast. You can find it on iTunes. And there's a whole bunch of guided meditations just to help you keep yourself calm on there as well.
Mm.
So, any of those probably the best way. And, I suppose just one final word of like, just to sum up everything is, personal empowerment and self-empowerment is about taking personal responsibility of our lives, of our health, of our happiness, of our calm, whatever that may be.
Mm.
And responsibility can really be seen as your ability to respond to situations.
Mm.
So, really important just to come back to that focus of it's not what's happening, but how am I responding? Am I being my focus word? Who am I being right now? Who do I need to be to navigate myself through this situation? That is going to bring you calm always. It may
That's
take a little bit of
fantastic.
practice, but it will bring you calm.
And that's what the resources you have available, giving people the practice and rewiring the brain.
Yeah.
So as usual, Cheryne, you have been amazing, really opened my eyes to looking at 2018 in a different way, and obviously potentially years after that as well, because I tend to be one person who doesn't like to do New Year's resolutions because I don't want to disappoint myself. But it's all about the focus word and the intention and being rather than doing.
Yeah.
So thank you again, and head on over to mindfulmummies.com.au and see all the beautiful things that you've done for us all. And thank you again for tuning in for another episode of Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene.